film opens with one of our leads, Benny, getting picked by two dudes for wearing the wrong colored jacket. They take the fight outside, and Benny ends up badly injuring one of the two dudes. As the narrator narrates how Benny has always been a problematic young man.
I've had nothing but trouble since I met Benny.
The scenes switch to the narrator herself, who happens to be Benny's wife, Kathy. While doing her laundry among her social circle, she narrates her first time discovering Benny and his bikers gang, called the Vandals. There's a flashback of her walking into a new bar, where she comes across the Vandals. She spots Benny playing pool with his buddies. Benny approaches Kathy, but she tells him she has to go home and doesn't talk much.
Well, I gotta go home.
Which drives Benny away.
You gotta go.
The leader of the Vandals, Johnny, approaches Kathy in order to straight things about not getting involved with the gang. Kathy becomes nervous, so she rushes out of the bar and waits for the bus to arrive. Benny makes his move by showing up on his chopper, offering her a ride home. She accepts his offer and speeds away with him. Benny drops her home, where Kathy's boyfriend is already waiting for her on the front porch. That night, Benny stays outside Kathy's house for the entire night, stirring drama between Kathy and her man. His tactic works, and the nagging boyfriend leaves Kathy the next morning. Benny wastes no time and knocks on Kathy's door. 5 weeks later, she married Benny. In the next scene, we see Benny speeding on his bike and breaking every traffic signal ahead of him as the cops are on his tail. He finally gets caught when his bike runs out of fuel, and he has to stop himself. The next day, the Vandals praise him while reading about his traffic violations in the daily newspaper.
Speeds over 85 miles an hour in two 20-mile-an-hour school zones and causing damage to 4 municipal vehicles as a result of the pursuit.
Scenes shift to Kathy giving an interview to a young boy named Danny, who plans on documenting the Vandals. Kathy starts off by mentioning how much Johnny loves Benny of all the Vandals. According to Kathy's statement, Johnny originally got the idea of the bikers gang by getting inspired by an old movie, but sadly, his racing group partner didn't like the sound of it and separated ways. This allowed Johnny to start his own club called the Vandals, which consisted mostly of the old racing group members. Up next, Kathy gives Danny the original members' names, and he goes to interview them and record their statements. He gets to meet the Vandals and record their opinions on the club. Now, once again in the laundry shop, Kathy states to Danny about how the Vandals strictly followed their self-made rules. This takes us back to a flashback, in which a man named Jack asks Johnny if his friends can continue the Vandals Club in their city. Johnny disagrees with him, so Jack reminds him of the rule according to which one Vandal can challenge the other Vandal if they disagree. Hence, he challenges Johnny for a fight. Johnny sticks to the rules and accepts the challenge. On their family picnic, the two fight in the mud. Johnny ends up biting his thigh and breaking one of his pinky fingers. Kathy tells Danny that from that day onwards, the club started growing popular and bigger. We see a young group of thieves checking out the Vandals as they pass by them. The kid of the gang becomes obsessed with the Vandals. Up next, Danny joins the Vandals for a day out. At a local park, he sits down with the Vandals and documents them. Simultaneously, a man from another biker club circles one of the Vandals and accuses him of chipping his bike. Johnny intervenes and tries to talk to him nicely about backing off, but the hot-headed Benny loses his calm and comes running towards the intruder. He throws a punch at his face, prompting a physical fight among the two groups. During the fight, Benny gets beaten up badly. But Johnny takes him away, while slowly calming him down. In the present, Kathy walks around the house while Danny records her statements about the Vandals. She gets upset to see two of the Vandals crashing her couch with their bikes parked outside her door, assuming her reputation is ruined in the neighborhood. Danny asks Kathy why the Vandals don't wear their signature jackets when they're apart from each other. Kathy explains that the Vandals have ended up making enemies along the road. Hence, when they're apart from each other, they take off their jackets so they don't get recognized and ambushed by their ops. This leads Kathy to complete the untold story of Benny in the beginning. She reveals that Benny never took off his jacket because he wasn't afraid to fight. Unfortunately, two of the enemies of the Vandals caught him alone in the bar, so they attacked him and broke off his foot. Kathy complains about Benny, saying that she never saw him crying or getting worked up about anything. Yet she saw him freak out in the hospital, fearing of losing his foot and not being able to ride bikes again.
Don't let him take my foot. They take my foot off and I can't ride no more.
A few days later, Johnny finds out about what happened to Benny, so he goes to the bar with the vandals and sets it on fire. In another flashback, Kathy gets Benny a room with no stairs and puts him on bed rest, but Johnny shows up, inclining Benny to get back on the road for a 3-week picnic, which makes Kathy angry deep inside. Kathy pays a personal visit to Johnny at his bar and clearly tells him she doesn't want Benny to continue being a vandal. She strictly tells Johnny to back off and let her have Benny all to herself, but Johnny believes Benny is old enough to decide what he wants to pursue. Kathy gets nothing out of this conversation and leaves. Up next, a glimpse of the obsessed kid's life is shown. He has an abusive father who beats his mother with his belt upon a minor inconvenience right when his friends show up. The kid loses his calm and nearly chokes his old man to death with the belt he was using to beat his mother. The friends take him away, revealing they have their own little bike club. They go straight to the vandals' picnic and ask one of the vandals to join their club. But the vandal points at Johnny and tells the kids to ask him for permission. Simultaneously, a middle-aged man named Funny Sonny shows up on his bike from all the way to California and asks Johnny to be in the vandals. Johnny likes his approach and includes him in the club. When the night falls and everyone sets up a bonfire, Johnny takes Benny to a side and asks him to become the next leader after Johnny retires. But Benny says no due to other pressures on his mind. In Kathy's next statement in the recording, she speaks of Benny threatening to leave her just to get what he wanted. He always used the leaving card whenever Kathy wanted to change him for good. He never acknowledged how this affected her, nor did he have feelings himself. Kathy recalls that he didn't feel anything when Brucey died in a bike accident. In the flashback, the bikers set up Brucey's funeral and have his parents come over. After the funeral, the kid approaches Johnny in the bar and asks to join the group. Johnny finds him too young and refuses to let him hop in the vandals. The kid requests that he check out his bikes at least. When Johnny goes out with him and checks out his bikes, he tests the kid by allowing only him to join the group and leave his friends out.
Yeah, you're in, but just you.
The kid immediately agrees to the condition. Johnny gets disappointed and tells the kid that he's failed the test by not sticking out for his group. Hence, he can't join the vandals. The kid becomes desperate and attempts to stab Johnny with a knife, but he dodges it by stopping it with his bare hands and gives the kid a knockout punch. Now, Danny asks Kathy about how the group came to an end. Kathy blames it on Brucey's death, claiming that the group split into two after his death. The old ones and the new ones didn't get along. In a party, one of the old vandals named Cockroach gets attacked and badly beaten up by the new vandals. Benny and Johnny rush to help him. Johnny sends Benny to drive Cockroach to the hospital. Back in the party, Kathy gets left alone, so a couple of junkies included in the vandals try to assault her, but Johnny shows up at the right moment and saves her. But she gets mad at Benny for not being there for her and takes it to heart. The next day, Cockroach shows up at the bar and reveals his intentions of leaving the group, but he's afraid that the new vandals will ambush him if he quits like that. Johnny promises to help him, so he asks Benny to grab his gun for him. When Benny goes back to his place for the gun, Kathy shows up and brings about the assault issue once again. Benny claims that Johnny took care of it, but Kathy expresses her suicidal thoughts that she's having after the assault and tells Benny he wasn't there, so he can't feel what she had to go through. She further asks Benny to leave the vandals to prove he's changed, but instead, he leaves her. He joins Johnny that night and helps him shoot Cockroach consensually to get the new vandals off his back. On their way back, Benny reignites the assault issue with Johnny, asking if this is what their club has come to: violence and assaults, and Johnny covering them up. Benny leaves his car, but Johnny comes after him and once again asks him to lead the vandals since he's failing to control the new vandals. Benny refuses the offer and disappears on his bike. Kathy tells Danny that he disappeared for more than a year this time. With his disappearance, the kid shows up and challenges Johnny for a fight. Johnny comes to visit Benny, but he finds from Kathy that he's gone. Later that night, the kid shows up with a gun and shoots Johnny dead. He takes over the vandals as leader, so the majority of the original vandals leave him. Kathy tells Danny that the kid turned vandals to crime and morphed into a mini-mob that would do all kinds of illegal activities for money. When Benny found out about Johnny's death, he returned to Kathy and cried over her shoulder. He quit the vandals and riding bikes in general. She looks out the window and watches Danny resume a normal life doing garage work with his cousin. The film ends here. Thank you for being a part of our video. If these tales of mystery and intrigue sent shivers down your spine, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more bone-chilling narratives. Stay tuned. And until next time, stay captivated.